And we're back. Mike Cernovich, HoaxedMovie.com. We got our two directors in here, or at least one of them. I don't know if the other one's camera shy or doesn't want to sit next to me or is afraid. So we're gonna do a production meeting live. Why? Well, because this is sort of the way you do things now these day and age. We're doing a crowdfund, and a friend of mine, Ezra was in a little trouble, even though I don't think he did anything wrong, and we'll talk about that later. But people really like the transparency, especially with a crowdfunding project. That's one thing that you learn, is that if you're going to crowdfund a project, people want to know, well, where's the money going? What do you do with my money? Are you going to buy another Ferrari, Cernovich? I don't actually drive a Ferrari. I drive a BMW, so I'm a douchebag. BMW convertible, of course I do. So we got a director here, co-directors, so you got to introduce yourselves.
I'm Scooter Downey, TrueLegendFilms.com. I'm on Twitter at TrueLegendFilms.
I'm John Dutoit, JohnDutoit.com, and at John Dutoit on Twitter.
And are you afraid, Mr.?
Hi, I'm Justin Gum, and I am the DP of this documentary.
Hello, can you see?
Hi, I'm Lauren. I'm running sound.
Okay, so there you go. So we got sound. We got Justin. I don't know why I was calling you Jesse earlier. I'm really sorry, dude. I'm bad with names. Sean will tell you that. Don't take it personally. And then, so we have a full-on crew. So we're doing. Hoax is going to be a little bit. It's going to be a little bit different than Silence. Silence was shot on an iPhone and with a Canon. So with just one guy and me, that's fine. But for Hoax, we got two directors, and we got director of photography or cinematography, whatever they want to call themselves, and we got director of sound. So it's going to be a different level kind of production. It's going to be a real production thing. So right now, we're going to kind of have a production meeting, and we're just going to do it open and transparent, because that's part of sort of the future of new media, is that you just kind of break that fourth wall, and people don't have to watch the DVD to get the behind the scenes thing. You get behind the scenes before we start. So maybe you guys can talk and just tell them kind of what we're doing right now and what's the game plan.
Right now, we need to set the schedule. We need to set the production schedule. We have to line up all of the interviews that we're going to do. We're trying to hit about anywhere from 10 to 12 interviews. We don't want it to be too jam-packed. We want to spend more time with people, because each person that's in the documentary is a character, and if you have too many, you can't let the personality shine through. So right now we're trying to set our schedule. We're hoping to have everybody interviewed by early October, and then that'll give us 2 months and change to do the post-production. So we're just trying to set the schedule today. And Mike's the man, so he's got all the contact details of all the big hitters. So we're gonna let him do the heavy hitting on that.
Yeah. What do you think, John?
Yeah, well, you know what? It's a very broad subject. So what Scooter was saying is that we don't want to hit too many people, for these interviews, because with a documentary you kind of want to dig deep into whatever the topic is. So for us, it's fake news. We want to allow people to, when we talk to them, when we interview them, to, have enough time to really dig deep into the topic, and not just cover it like a news story, which is broad and quick, right? So, yeah, I second that sentiment.
And that's the challenge of doing this film, is that, so when you're going into any kind of documentary, you have to make a story, and the story is Hoax going to be a Michael Moore style documentary where you follow Mike Cernovich as he does all this wild stuff, and I can do the stunt journalism, but that isn't really the way that we want to take this. We want to play this real clean, and in that regard, we no tricks, no games, no gimmicks. We want it to be just a beautiful professional product that is going to get out of our little echo chamber. Okay, I can do raw meat. I can do savagery. I can do, look at you and I knock it on Brian Stelter's door. Get out, you coward, you coward. That's easy. I can do that standing on my head. But artistically, the vision for this is the kind of film that your parents and grandparents are going to be sharing. Your parents are going to say, oh, wow, yeah, I never thought about the connection between fake news and the housing bubble. I never thought about the connection between, economic disasters and how people in the media will incredulously have on experts who get it wrong. We have to get out of our little thought bubble. So I want this to be a film for not only us, but the moderate liberals out there. And I want it to be for media people too, as surprising as this may seem. I want people like BuzzFeed Ben to watch this film and say, you know what? He's got a point. You know, because we've got to show range. So I don't know if you listened to that foreign policy interview with me, but I have range, and I'm showing a different range. I can say, you know, I can be the hard ass, I can be the gorilla, but I can also be nuanced and careful and meticulous and recognize where I've gotten things wrong and recognize that sometimes a story is wrong from the media, but it's not really due to fake news, it's more due to confirmation bias or something like this, right? So we want to show a lot of range here. So I want this to be something like Scott Adams or BuzzFeed Vin or Dave Rubin, and all of you could watch and say, son of a bitch, you know, this is a really thoughtful, interesting take on the media, and it would be a learning kind of experience for everybody. So there will be a few, it will be aggressive in that regard. It isn't going to be a softball movie. It's going to be aggressive, and people want that. But I also want people to walk away from the film thinking, okay, there are consequences. I mean, even for me, you know, I used to be a little bit looser than I am now because as my audience grew, I got a tighter game. And there are things that maybe I covered a year ago that I wouldn't cover today because when you have such a profile that I have now, you realize you have a bigger kind of responsibility to make sure that, you know, the things that you say can create narratives in a way that isn't really good. So we all have to raise our sort of level of game. So what are you guys thinking?
Yeah, I mean, you know, we don't want to silence anybody. We want people to, you know, when we talk to them, we want them to be free to express themselves, and you know, we want to ask them some hard questions too, not just of the left, but also of the right, and just about anybody we talk to. We're going to ask them hard questions. We are going to give them room to talk and actually explain their viewpoints, and you know, see where that leads. Right? We don't want to shape it that much. We want people to shape the story themselves.
Yeah, we're gonna be transparent because we're gonna release all of the interviews uncut, so everybody can see, you know, the entire thing. Because the whole thing with the mainstream media is they'll take an interview like they did with Mike with 60 Minutes. They'll cut it all together, and they can frame it. They can frame the narrative in any way they want. And of course, we'll be making editorial decisions because there's no way we could have that many hours of footage into a documentary. But we're also going to be releasing all the interviews so that you guys can watch it, and I mean, you can probably cut your own thing with it, you know, as well. So,
yeah, the hard drive. Didn't you say that we're going to use like 10 grand just for the storage or whatever?
Yeah,
that's going to be up there.
It's going to be up there.
Yeah, just to store all the videos that we're going to do is going to be like a $10,000 hard drive. And by the way, we're funded, so this is those of you who have funded it. Thank you. A lot of people are saying, well, I didn't get in time and everything, and I don't know. We'll think of something later, but we are still fully funded and everything, so we're good to go. This isn't a softball pitch. Oh, and by the way, go here. No. Yeah. It's just about, like, I believe that when you're, here's the way I believe. I believe that a conversation I don't record is a wasted conversation. Unless it's like romantic or something like that. But I don't want to talk to these guys and not show it to 10,000 people. To me, that's so dumb. Like, why would we just have a meeting and talk amongst ourselves? Because we're not hiding anything. There's no games. I'm not, because for example, I want General Flynn to be in the film, but I don't think we'll be able to get him because of all this nonsense going on. But General Flynn has been a victim of fake news. What they've done to him is atrocious, and I don't think we'll be able to get him. So right now we're kind of talking about who we want in the film. So I guess I'll ask you, and my vision is good enough. Are we not distracting? No, you're not. Why? Because my brain is hardwired to think and talk to one person, say new thoughts, and then talk to other people and to read your comments. My brain is plugged in. So we're thinking, who do you want in this documentary? Stefan Molyneux is already in. He's all in. He said he'll narrate it if we need a narrator. So Molyneux is all in. Alex Jones is obviously going to be in. I want to get Nassim Taleb in it to talk, because he calls the media kind of intellectual yet idiots. So I think he would be great. I would like to get Scott Adams in it to talk about confirmation bias. So, for example, a lot of fake news that we have isn't malicious. It's a confirmation bias. You see something, and you go, oh my God, that's proof that Trump's a Nazi, like that 6-point star thing. Dan Scavino posted it. His wife's Jewish. He thought it was like just a star of a sheriff's star. Oh, we're coming for you, Hillary Clinton. But if you think that Trump's an anti-Semite, you see the Star of David. And you know what? You're not wrong. Both people, this is what a lot of people don't, both of them are right. Yeah, it's 100% right that I saw a sheriff's star, and it's 100% right that other people saw a Star of David or a Jewish star. because the confirmation bias, and then it gets reported one way or another based on your filter of reality. And so Scott Adams would be really good. Daniel Kahneman, who's the Nobel Prize winner for behavioral economics and heuristics and biases, would be good for it too. Maybe we can get him in. But that's kind of the level we're thinking of. Is I want to get BuzzFeed Ben in it. So the way I'm going to pitch it to Ben Smith at BuzzFeed is I'm going to say, as long as they're okay with this, these are the directors. I'm going to say, Ben, you can pick your 90 seconds, and that we're going to film in. I'm not going to splice, one question from here to another question from there. I'm going to say you can pick your 90 seconds or whatever, however many seconds they use, and you can just say this is what I feel is representative of what I have to say. And a lot of people are mad that I would want Ben Smith in it. Well, that's the whole point. I don't want just pure red meat. Fuck BuzzFeed. BuzzFeed's terrible. That isn't what this is about. It's about saying, hey, maybe the Trump dossier wasn't a really good story. What were you thinking? Why did you do it? But BuzzFeed has done some stuff that's kind of good. So that's what I mean. It isn't just because I can do a hatchet job easy. But artistically, that would be boring, I think. What do you guys think?
Yeah. I would say we wouldn't want him to pick the 90 seconds, but maybe he can get approval, or the fact that we're going to release the whole thing uncut. But yeah, one of the storylines we want to do is Mike interviewing an opposition media, mainstream media journalist, and having them grill Mike, because that's the whole thing with fake news is it's what Scott Adams says, it's two movies, one screen with fake news. There's the idea that Mike is fake news, that the alternative media, are fake news. They're spreading conspiracy theories, and the mainstream media is more credible. They, et cetera, et cetera. So to have that kind of Frost-Nixon debate and have Mike on the hot seat and someone from the mainstream media on the hot seat, that's going to create a lot of dynamic, a lot of conflict that we can use throughout the film.
Yeah, exactly. So if somebody in the mainstream media, they can bring their bullet points and just say, I think that you're the problem, Cernovich. How dare you call us fake? And I'm cool with that. That's the thing. I don't fear any kind of scrutiny for this, because this is going to be soul-searching for everybody. Everybody needs to find out what is fake news. So I want to get Eric Weinstein in it. Eric Weinstein went on the Rubin Report, and he talked about the different categories of fake news. So fake news doesn't always mean a fabricated story, but here's an example of fake news. Let's say right now there's 10 people wearing Trump hats, and 9 of them are really nice people. And then one person in there throws up a Nazi salute. And then the only thing you do is you take a picture of that one person with the Nazi salute, and then you go, 10 people show up with Trump hats, and then you show a picture of the Nazi salute guy. Well, that's truthfully reporting that there was one guy doing a bad thing, but if you're contextualizing it within the other 9 people, well, you're making it seem like it was 10 people doing it. You're not saying, actually, no, everybody was great and there was one screwball there, and moreover, that screwball got kicked out by these people later. They didn't want him there. So that is an example of fake news, where even though you're telling the truth, you're reporting a fact that did happen. You're failing to contextualize it within the broader background. So fake news is not an easy subject to cover.
Yeah, it's a lack of integrity, right? So, because one of the things that we're going to be looking into is, why is there fake news? What are they trying to accomplish by lying? Because, it makes sense that it would be a lot easier to just report the facts, as truthfully as possible. But they go through all these lengths to lie and basically paint this picture that's not accurate. Why are they doing that, right? So that's something we're going to be looking at as well. And from our perspective as filmmakers too, we have our own view of what fake news is, obviously. But like I said earlier, we want to give people, we want to give them room to speak, because we sort of want them to. We're going to ask them hard questions so they could maybe try and paint them into a corner a little bit, and maybe reveal some biases that they don't want to publicly acknowledge, right? So that's going to be one of the things we're going to be looking into as well.
Yeah, and documentaries aren't ultimately about information. So there's going to be a lot of information, a lot of different aspects of how the media can editorialize news and the techniques that they use, and we'll go into history, we'll go into the finance, but ultimately a documentary is about emotion. So that's what we want to draw out. That's why we want to, one of the lists of groups of people that we want to talk to are the victims of fake news. And so drawing out the emotion is one of our goals as well. So it's not just, it's not boring because if there's no emotion, it's going to be boring.
Right, so we're going to get going and do some more filming and shooting. But for everybody who backed Hoaxed Movie, thank you so much. And we appreciate it. And we're going to keep you updated regularly. We'll be updating the Kickstarter. We'll be releasing footage that we don't use. We'll be releasing full interviews. So it's really big. And again, we want this out Christmas. That is the goal. So we're going to be grinding away. Thank you, everybody. And I'm glad you got to meet the whole crew and meet everybody. And we're happy to answer any questions or hear your ideas. So if you want somebody particular to be in Hoaxed, use the hashtag Hoaxed Movie. HOAXEDMOVIE. If you want a request, if you think there's a story that we should cover, if you think that there's an angle we're missing, then we'll monitor that hashtag and we'll read all your comments and just let us know what you have to say right there, good, bad, or ugly.